We were so far ahead of schedule, we couldn't, and we will still be early for the 10:15. Up next would be the Sublette County Visitor Center. Peter Paulin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Just a quick department report from the Visitor Center. We have April numbers came in. You can hear me all right. We saw 653 total visitors at the Visitor Center in April, which is up about 21% from 2024. And our referral program stayed strong at 24.6%. That was up about 2% from the previous month in 2024. Top referrals were restaurants, outdoor recreation, and lodging. And on your report, I won't go through all of them, but those are the states that, as we record states and where people are from, states that visited. The top 3 states in April, we consider anyone outside of Sublette County a visitor. Wyoming came in at number 1, Utah at number 2, and Colorado at number 3. Had some visits from people from Canada and England, and we didn't register any bus stops this in April. Our tracking category, why are you here? We saw people traveling through the area, came in at 57. Sublette County as a destination at 18, and locals looking for information at 40 that were registered. The Pinedale Visitor Center is now open 7 days a week and will be so through September. We are just finishing up our staffing, work campers, part-time employee, and intern and volunteers are all set for the Pinedale location moving forward through the summer. I did receive from the county attorney's office the request by Commissioner White for the memo of understanding, and I do have that. I'm not sure if I should present. I have one copy that I just got given to, so is that something I should give to you now, or one copy of the memo of understanding, or?
Just whenever you can, Peter.
Okay.
I just want to look it over.
Yeah. Yes, I have one right here if you'd like it. Should I give it to you now?
Sure.
Okay. I actually have 2 copies here.
Thank you.
Yeah. We still have an open spot. The office and the visitor center is still unoccupied. That was vacated by the Chamber of Commerce, so we're still looking for a renter. Maintenance has gone in and done some upkeep on that office, so it's gotten some new paint, and I continue to advertise and look for a new renter for that location. Lisa Copeland has reached out to Union Wireless about getting us hooked up over there, as our existing internet will be leaving at some point. So I'm working with her, and she's already contacted Union Wireless about getting that set up, as we talked about. We're doing a little bit of summer marketing. We're concentrating on the 3 events this summer. The Gem and Mineral Show coming up next weekend. Of course, Rendezvous and the Sublette County Fair. So any marketing we're doing is going to be kind of targeted towards events mostly this summer. We did sign on the Wyoming Community College Commission will hold their fall summit here in September. It's one of about 4 groups I'm working on right now to get some meetings here and conferences here kind of on the off season. to fill in some gaps. So I'll continue to keep you guys posted on the progress throughout this summer. And finally, just an update on the Sublette County Visitors Center in Big Piney. They're continuing to work on that front area at the Visitors Center. So I'll be going down later this week to see their progress, and I'll keep you guys informed on how we do. And we still plan on opening July 1st and having an open house during the Chuck Wagon Day Parade. Hopefully, it'll be a mad rush at the end, but we'll have the doors open, hopefully. I think we're all set. And that's all I had for today. If you guys have any questions or anything, anyone?
Peter, thank you. Everybody here, have I got this thing turned up?
I don't hear you very well.
All right. Can't hear it. Says you should. Is that better? No? Oh, my darn. How about that? Okay, we'll try this way then. So, Peter, I've heard good things about the accomplishments down at Big Piney. That's the positive part. The negative part is I've also heard that for some reason we're still tied in with the Pinedale tourism that's still promoting, hey, come here, you're able to run wildlife, et cetera, on their four-wheelers and what have you. This is a time of the year, as most folks here would know, that the young are showing up. And you hear people talk about, oh, that was an abandoned little one. Well, they're not abandoned. They're just mom's away someplace. So whatever is required to eliminate that type of conversation associated with Sublette County, I, for one, would like to see it removed. I don't know what you have to do to go about doing it, but it's still out there because I've heard from various sources about it. So if you could, address that, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. As far as our content is concerned, we're very focused on, trying to do mitigation and attaching safety and all that stuff. We're not really doing any promotion right now that I would say would be not responsible, I guess. Most of the stuff that we're doing right now is concentrated on our services that we have here and the events that we're doing throughout the county right now. We had earlier in previous years really concentrated on outdoor rec because that's kind of our number one thing here. But our board, and after talking with the commission, and it's just being very careful how we promote ourselves. And if we are promoting ourselves, what are we showing the people out there? What would be the, I guess, the attitude of when they come here. So the visitor center itself and my staff is very concentrated on people who come in. I get people for all different places around the world. Some have real good knowledge of and are really, you can kind of feel them out about why they're here, what they're doing here, and those who come and we know, and I can talk to them about, things that they need to be aware of when they come here to recreate. And so that's kind of stuff that we focus on. When it comes to the online stuff, we're, like I said, focused on those kind of events and stuff. Other entities, I guess it's up to them of how they want to approach the promotion of our area, I guess would be a great way. But we're very focused on it this year. I'm having meetings with my staff about responsible, real-time, accurate information for whatever that may be. So I'm not sure if that answers any of the question that you have. So that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
Okay, well, appreciate that, but there seems to be for some reason an era that we live in today that's guilt by association. So if you're not careful how you associate with something, you're as guilty as the one that you didn't want to be associated
Sure,
with.
I understand.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Once
Yeah.
again, I'm going to request that you look this out and make sure that we're not being pointed at as, hey, it's okay if it's okay to do this, it's okay to do it wherever.
Yeah.
Because there's most of us here wouldn't agree with that philosophy. I certainly don't.
Which philosophy is that?
Running wildlife.
Yes, absolutely not. No,
Okay.
absolutely not. We're still waiting on the other website from Pinedale they are going to do a big redo of that website, and that's happening, I guess, within the next 30 days, I was told.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Anything else to add? Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is Tonia Hoffman with the hospital district. We're a little ahead of schedule. If you'd care to wait another 5 minutes, you're welcome to, or you can start now. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this morning. I'd like to first thank you for the opportunity for a recess so we could assemble our team. And I'd like to thank those who are here in support of the hospital district at the time. While Mr. Brickner attempts to join the presentation, I just want to bring a couple of key points to the conversation. Number one, I'm grateful for the opportunity to address you this morning and to try to gain some clarity and understanding about the decision that was made 2 weeks ago. Are you able? Do we need to? No?
Now I got it.
Okay. I'm under the understanding also, I should back up, that each of you has had the opportunity to meet Mr. Brickner, our interim CEO. If not, this is Greg Brickner. He's our interim CEO. He's done a fantastic job for us in the time that he's been here, and we're very grateful for him. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and address you. And we do have a presentation prepared. But before I dive into that, I would just like to offer 2 key points about the presentation. Number one, regarding the pay app that we submitted to the county, I just want to make it very, very clear that when we submit a pay app and a voucher to the county commissioners, that is a reimbursement to the hospital district. That means we've already paid that bill and we're asking for reimbursement. That has been the process much of this during construction because we've relied on county funds and ARPA funds. We have to pay those things out of pocket. And that has at times put us in significant financial hardship. So I just want to be very, very clear that when we submit that, we've already paid that payment. Number two, we see this as 2 very distinct and separate issues, the pay app and the public health and the transfer agreement. So with that being said, I'd like to start into our presentation. So please, if you don't mind just turning and referring to the screen. And I'm going to grab my bottle of water. Sorry. Excuse me, I had too much coffee this morning, a little dry. All right, I thought the first item of business would be to give you an update. We haven't had an opportunity to show you the building since January when we had you on a tour, which was phenomenal. And I'd like to offer another tour at any point for the commission if you'd like to arrange for that to happen. But I did want to show you some pictures. On the critical access side, as you can see, the entry of the hospital is largely finished. There's been more work done since this photo. We have equipment, we have an MRI, a CT, we have the servery, we have a mammogram that was installed yesterday, we have DEXA scanning. We have all sorts of capabilities that we will be able to provide as services to the residents of Sublette County very, very soon. These pictures are specific to the Heritage Home side, the skilled nursing side of the facility. As you can see, it's largely completed as well. These are really nice rooms, very nice facility. This third slide addresses the budget, and I would just like to draw attention to the fact that the Critical Access Hospital has reached and been given the designation of substantial completion as of May 23rd, which was just a couple of weeks ago. That means that we are now in the process of obtaining our licensures that are needed for opening the doors to the hospital. The Heritage Home, however, sits at about 85 to 90% completion to date. If you look on the right side of that screen, you'll notice that the overall budget for the Heritage Home side of the project was $33.7 million. To date, the hospital district has spent $30,943,302. Notice that the county commitment of $25.4 million is significantly under the committed amount or the spent to date. And the reimbursed to date is $22,735,794.53. So I just wanted to illustrate where we're sitting in our budget in comparison to the county commitment. This slide is just a brief reminder that the hospital district was created by a vote back in 2020 for the residents of Sublette County. And just our mission at the bottom to provide, to excel at providing comprehensive health services in Sublette County through efficient, high quality, patient-centered care. That has always been and remains our mission and helps guide our vision moving forward. This infographic, I think, is helpful in understanding all of the services that we provide. And once the doors open to the hospital, I wanted to illustrate that all of those services will be under the direction of the hospital, and the hospital will financially support all of those services as well. I just hope that's clear to everyone who's listening. This is just a brief snapshot of the services that we provided in the year 2024. Gives you an overall idea of the types and numbers of services that we're providing to the residents of Sublette County. So I'll give you just a moment to scan that. And if you have any questions about those numbers, I'm happy to address. In preparing this presentation, I wanted to allude to the fact that we've always considered this process very collaborative with the County Commission. For those of you who have been on for years, you know how far back this project goes and how hard how many efforts were put into creating this partnership and all of the things that had to take place. The transfer agreement that we'll talk about in just a moment being one of those. But I did want to just draw attention to the fact that we still consider this a collaborative effort. We hope that the relationship with the county commissioners goes well into the future, and we see it that we have to continue to work together. One of the ways we do so is with the medical services provided to the jail. That's a huge collaborative effort with the county. So also, I wanted to draw attention to the fact that per the transfer agreement that was signed in 2022, we have built within the hospital 2 mental health crisis rooms, behavioral hold rooms, they're called, for the safe care and coordination of care for those in mental health crisis. Currently, the county sends all of those patients out to Teton or Sweetwater, pending availability of rooms. We saw this as an opportunity to take care of those within our fold, and we've got 2 rooms that we hope to be able to work with the commission to be able to provide care for within Sublette County. So just another effort at collaboration. You'll see some of the key points at the bottom. This is not a money-making venture for us. This is something that we felt was very, very important to offer to the community. This is just a snapshot of our last pay app. And the reason I included this in the presentation was I wanted to just draw attention to the fact that these are all of our sources of funds. And this is what we submit to the USDA each month. If you'll notice on the left, all of the sources are listed out, and those numbers in the original budget are full commitments that were made by each of those sources. And those are the numbers that the USDA is expecting us to fulfill and to use to completion. So I just wanted to include that. So it shows that original commitment by the county commission. And you can see what we've used, where it's come from, and where things stand currently. Again, just wanted to draw some attention to the many, many partnerships that it has taken to make this project a reality. In regard to your decision a couple of weeks ago as commissioners, we wanted to just explore the potential impacts of that held reimbursement. These are the three largest impacts that we could identify as a team. Number one being stalled or partial completion of the Heritage Home side of the project. Number two is a delayed opening and licensure. Because everything is linked, opening is tied to inspections. Inspections are tied to licensures. Licensure is tied to survey, which becomes a very key component of opening a hospital. And that survey is tied to our ability to bill for services. So at a time when our finances are very, very fragile, we have to meet all of those deadlines in completion to be able to bill for services. And that's critical for us right now. Any delays can really cause us some major problems. We are currently looking at a delay with the circumstances at hand. Number three, and obviously this is the elephant in the room, but catastrophic failure of healthcare for Sublette County residents. Because of the timing of our finances and trying to provide all of the services critical for opening, it has left us in a very fragile spot financially. And I think we've been fairly honest about that. We've talked about anticipated losses for the last several months at our board meetings and how tight things were going to be and how critical it is that we manage this time period very, very carefully. So with that, I'd like to invite Mr. Brickner up to speak a little bit more to our financial status. And then I've also asked that Lindsay Bond come up and give a brief statement, and Dr. Burnett and Dawn Walker, should she choose to, if they have anything to add as our administrative team. So.
So one common question I get is the hospital going to work? Does the model actually work? Is this hospital sustainable? I was actually asked that already this morning. The critical access model and the subsidies that we will receive from Medicare allow the hospital to work with a low volume that you have in a small community. It's the only reason that a small town like Pinedale or Sublette County can support and sustain a hospital. Getting to that point is our challenge. And that is where we have planned losses, that section there in green. We know we're going to lose money when we open the hospital. I've been trying very intentionally to make sure that I articulate that. I don't want someone to look at our July financials in August and say, I told you it wasn't going to work. We know that July is going to be awful. August is going to be awful. Until we achieve that critical access status from Medicare, and then the funding model works. We get through that point, the model works. There's many successful critical access hospitals in the country that rely on that Medicare subsidy. It's not volume based, and so the model actually works. Delaying the our pay app and adding that to our planned losses, it's a 46% increase in our planned losses that we simply cannot absorb that loss. We know that this project was established with the mill levies in mind, and the voters approved going from the 2 to 3 mill levies. But the value of those mill levies have declined, as well as the deferment. As we're all feeling that with the energy mineral extraction taxes. And so together, adding that additional loss, that does jeopardize the hospital. It doesn't allow us to get to that critical access status from Medicare and where we be able to sustain ourselves and be a successful hospital, if that makes sense.
Hello there. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the operation within itself. This is very important with what we call loss leaders. So I grew up in healthcare with primary care. Primary care is established as a loss leader, which means it's okay that you operate in the red because of course you're taking care of patients, but you're feeding the hospital. And so it kind of all evens out. And that's why going back to that image of the hospital being in the center is so important. The hospital is surrounded by what's called loss leaders. And so we always want to offer services in all parts of the county, but these things aren't revenue producers. So what am I tasked with? But I'm tasked with retention, recruitment, making sure that the hospital is fully staffed up. Right now, we're a physician clinic and we are moving to hospital, which means, for instance, with lab. Lab is moderate complexity to low complexity. We're moving to high complexity. We're offering a blood bank that's very important for our county. The blood bank requires more formally trained technologists. We don't have those right now, and we need them. So my job over the last couple of years has been to actively recruit. There's a hospital that's quite local to here that if they don't have a medical technologist, they actually have to completely close down their lab. They can't demote their lab. They have to just completely close it down. They lost their medical technologist. They are closing their lab as a hospital. We have recruited and retained medical technologists. That's a 4-year degree. And that is something that we have local, we have state regulations, but some of these positions are actually federal regulations. MRI tech, we talk a lot about the MRI. That was quite a success for Sublette County. But the onus is on me to make sure that we actually recruit a technologist who can perform work with the MRI. We were able to recruit that. Okay, so I've recruited these people. Now I've got to retain them. For hospitals nationwide, average turnover rate is 21%. When I walked into Sublette County 2.5 years ago, we were at 14%, which is phenomenal. We're now at 7%. People are getting hired on and they're staying. And I hope to say, and I hope the employees would back me in saying it's because the culture is good. It's because that we are actively trying to make sure we take care of the staff, we communicate to the staff. And a couple other points is that this is not just happenstance. We did not just put out an ad, post an ad, and these people were they just came to us because it's paradise. Sometimes that does happen. But we persevered a lot. We were very strategic in our recruiting efforts, and I'm awfully proud of that. Nursing, after COVID, nursing wage scales have increased to 12%. So we've got to be quite competitive. Plus the cost of living is a little bit higher here. Radiology, 18%. Lab, we've had to be competitive. That's a 30% increase for wage scale. So those are all the numbers that we know exist. And so that's why, for instance, Greg and I make such a great team, is because he knows the numbers. I know what it takes to keep these people staying here. And so I just wanted to kind of give you an overall of what's happening under the roof of the hospital. So any questions? Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Once again, we thank you for this opportunity to be able to come talk to you, update you, and hopefully work through the current situation. The success of a project of this magnitude, which was sanctioned by the voters of Sublette County, depends upon vision and optimism. I think the hospital district has done a fantastic job at hiring administrators who share that vision and share that optimism. They in turn have collected a group of directors who have done the same, and the medical staff as well. So we are moving forward with that vision, building on that optimism. I think that has carried over with our partnerships in the community, not the least of which are the school districts at both ends of the county, the towns, the senior citizens of this county, and as previously mentioned, the sheriff's office through the jail system that we have. I myself, as most of you know, have spent 36 years in this county providing and promoting healthcare. I have also spent 28 years as an elected position in this county. That is to say, I have devoted the large majority of my time here for the betterment of this county. My concern is that with the difficulties we fail, or the difficulties we face, is the possibility of a catastrophic failure of our healthcare system. It keeps me up at night. I think of things that maybe perhaps some of you have not reached out or looked at. I think about the 75-year-old couple who have lived in this county for 50 years, who may face the opportunity or the situation where they'll have to move because we don't have any health care. I think about the children on the playground that sustain injuries, or the athletes on the field that sustain injuries, that need critical attention right away that we might not be able to provide. I think about a county that doesn't have an EMS service to provide ambulance service, not an ambulance service, not a clinic, not a hospital. These things, as pointed out previously, are all tied together. I think about how that impacts our community. I think about the businesses in this community that depend on healthcare for their operations, things like pharmacy, physical therapy, home health, things of those nature. There's multiple things that I've looked into, and I won't take up your time. I think I got my point across. I would like to see that you commissioners as elected officials would join us in trying to share that vision. In so doing, I think you can increase the optimism on the part of our staff, on the part of our community, and play a key role in guaranteeing the success of this project. Thank you.
My portion's actually very brief, and I wanted to echo what Tonia said earlier, coming in a spirit of gratitude for the opportunity to come and speak with you. And I think the fact that you've opened a wide space for people to come and talk. We didn't continue to have this meeting at the county commissioner chambers, which would certainly be your purview. You opened a space for a lot of people to come, and you're willing to listen to us. And I think that speaks volumes towards the partner that the county has always been in healthcare, especially for the Sublette Center, Heritage Home. And so that's really the point I would like to make, is that the detriment of withholding pay app actually affects the construction of Heritage Home. And I get the luxury of only paying attention to older people, because that's been my passion. It's what I've been doing for 12 years. And I really want to see people be able to move into their new homes. They're pretty excited about it. We're opening spaces that are private rooms. And that's a hard thing in long-term care, to have shared rooms. I'm not sure how many people in this room would like me to come into your house and say, hey, Tonia's going to be your roommate. But that is the reality of what happens in long-term care, and it was the impetus for building a new facility in part. And the county commissioners have been so generous with time and with money and being involved in the project. So I hope to see that continue, because the people who currently live at Sublette Center are very excited about the prospect of new location, private rooms, and memory care. I have a lot of people in the community right now. I already have 7 on a waiting list. So I'd like to be able to keep them informed, and I hope that delays don't require for them to seek care out of county. But just mostly thank you. Thank you for your time and your continued partnership well into the future. Thanks.
Thanks, team. I feel like we have a pretty fantastic team. I'm grateful for the comments from each. That is the end of the first part of this discussion. And I feel like with that, we're kind of at a standstill here until we address the real elephant in the room. As I hope we've made clear with the comments and the slides up to this point, the real question is about the withheld reimbursement. On May 23rd, after we received word that the commission had made the decision that they had, there was an email from our legal counsel to yours asking about the intent of the commissioner's decision at that time. And so I would like to pose that question again to you publicly. It went unresponded. So I guess I would just like to get a better understanding of where this commission stands at present. Given the information and all of the information that you've heard, the little puzzle graphic that shows the hospital in the center of all of this, and our ability to provide care moving forward in that way, shape, and form. Is it the intent of this commission that we cease construction on the Heritage Home at this time? Because we are unable financially to move forward if that payment is withheld permanently. I'm sorry?
Completed now, or?
I have more of the presentation, but I just would like to hear your thoughts about the intent of the commission.
Sure, if I may speak. What the commission has done is not with the intent of not giving the hospital district the money. The commission is not looking forward to holding this money for a lengthy period of time. However, the hospital district, as everyone is fully aware, and as you advertise, is a leader of healthcare in the area. And that goes to the different agencies that you work with, EMS, public health. And one of the issues, the issue that comes up is the lack of being able to identify and come up with a solid move forward for the public health nurse. All entities have signed a contract in that regard. Everyone is fully aware of that. And what was the catalyst of us retaining the $2.6 million was a meeting that the county attorney, Clayton Milinkovich, and the public health nurse, Jana Lee, had with hospital district and I believe your attorney. And at that point in time, it was stated that the soonest that this could be addressed was the first quarter of 2026. And that was further coupled with the statement, if funds permit. We as a board look at it from a contract that was issued between two entities, including the county and USDA and the state of Wyoming, that parcel with all facilities would be delivered to the public health nurse 180 days after the opening of the hospital district. And everyone agrees with that. The problem that we have is once, and we're this far, I recognize this, but also we should have a plan in place for that the hospital district and the public health nurse has agreed to. What is the facility? Where is it going to be? It's to be 6,000 square feet with a number of very specific items associated with it. And you know fully well, construction in Pinedale, that's not going to occur in 6 months. So we should have had, the public health nurse, should have come into an agreement with you by this point in time. That hasn't occurred. Coupled with a statement, if we have the funds in April, we might do something. And because of those statements, we're holding $2.6 million until there's some assurance that the public health nurse will receive what was offered to them on a contractual basis. If we release the $2.6 million, we have no assurance that you're going to address it. And that's how we look at it. We, as a county board of county commissioners, not only represent the hospital district, which we want to see completed and we want to see it successful. There's no question about that. The Sublette Center Heritage Home, I have a tremendous interest in that. My mother lived there for a decade and passed away there. But at the same time, every other department and agency we represent. And we want to have parity for all. And not only do we expect parity for all. So when you step forward and say, oh, we might be able to address the public health nurse in April of 26 if fund permits, that is not acceptable. And that's why the money has been withheld. And we are hoping that the individuals here can come up with a way to put everything together and make it so the public health nurse has a place to go. And that's what I have to say initially. Any other board members?
May I make comment?
Agree.
Okay. You can hear that, I guess, right? Okay, so I'm looking out there in the audience. I'm trying to remember who all is there. I can't remember everybody, but I see a couple out there. Ken Konachek's one, Luann Height's another. Dave Bell's not here. We all know those three, I assume. If you've lived here more than a day, you know Dave Bell, you know Luann, you know Ken. So in course of time, Luann sold a lot of cars. Ken sold a lot of insurance. Dave Bell did the same. They were involved with contracts. We all have had a contract at one point in time. I've had them. I doubt if there's anybody in this room under 16 that hasn't had a contract at some point in time. So let me read, those of you who don't know, what it says. This is the definition of a contract. A contract is an agreement between two parties that creates an obligation to perform or not perform a particular duty. That's pretty simply stated. I'll mow your grass, for instance, for $40. I mow the grass. We've obligated each other to that side of the contract. So I got to change glasses. That's part of getting too old. I'd recommend that you do that, though, get older. So this is a great statement from Mr. Bell. He's up in Montana watching his granddaughter play ball. Sent me this text. We can always fight, argue, or disagree over policy and direction, but a contract is a contract. Remember what I just said. A contract is a contract. Now, from a contractual standpoint, when I look over the transfer agreement, the county has lived up to their side of that agreement. There's still some pieces in here that the hospital district has not. And here we are today. Here we are today, wondering, what are we going to do? There's not one of us at this table. There's certainly nobody out there that wants to see this hospital not survive. But the contract needs to be abided by both sides. It's not a one-way deal. They never are. Used to be in my early days, a contract was my word and a handshake. That took care of most of it. That's went away, obviously, over time. So today we have lawyers sit down and put words together. We look at them. Okay, that looks good to me. So I don't know how many of you folks have had an opportunity to look at the transfer agreement. I had never seen it until here we go. So I looked at it, and there's things in there that made sense, things in there, I don't know. But the whole thing of it is, it was signed by Mrs. Hoffman. So my guess is when she and the legal counsel looked this over, they had no issue with any of it was in there. That's my guess. I don't know for a fact, but it's right here in black and white. It says what each side is obligated to do. And I'm sorry about the feedback. If I don't spit it out a little bit, you can't hear it all. So as we go forward with this circumstance, if you would, we're supposed to have the best interests of all in this county. That's why we're sitting at this table. We make tough calls. The call that we made a meeting ago finally got some attention. We have not had anybody come before us from the hospital district and give us an update since the last time I asked a question and I was told my pay grade doesn't allow me to do that. Well, there's folks in here today that are going to answer some questions because I believe their pay grade will allow it. That's what I think, anyway. I'm one of those that I just don't like to be put in a corner. I've got a string of emails here that have called me everything from I cannot and will not venture the words. Why is that? You would have thought the decision that we made a meeting ago was the end of the earth. The sky is falling. We're going to be, I want to say something. My wife's listening, so I'd best not. We're going to create havoc with the healthcare system in Sublette County. No, we're not. We're not going to allow that to happen. So I wonder why. I just wonder why, when this dialogue was started, why somebody from this board didn't say, hey, wait a minute, you guys that are chastising the commission for everything. Why didn't somebody step up and said, hey, wait a minute, I've read that contract. This is what the contract says. Instead, we've been blasted from everything from you shouldn't be there, you should resign, to you're an SOB. Right on down the line. Now, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm sitting there thinking, here we are being chastised for something that we didn't create because we had lived up to our obligations. And nobody has stepped up and said, hey, wait a minute, guys. This is the real deal. This is what the contract says. Let's come together and work something out. So we got somebody come together and we're going to try to work something out. But it's just unfortunate that those of you who want, and ultimately more than likely will get, of taking us to task over, once again, I reiterate, that we didn't create. I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine in real life any of you going over to your neighbor and cussing them outside and down the other, and then turning around and saying, oh, by the way, could you come help me fence? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me to chastise the folks that have this commission the opportunity to make this thing be full. It just doesn't make sense to me why that could occur. And so I would ask that question. Why have you allowed it to happen? Because it's not as though it's a secret out there. I see some of you saying, oh, I wish he'd shut up. Well, I'm not going to shut up, folks. I've got a long day ahead of me, and I'm tired. I'm really tired of being called the bad guy when, in fact, I'm not. Neither is the rest of this commission. This presentation we saw a bit ago, we haven't seen a presentation from the hospital district since Carl Luschau left. That's been a while, a long while. Do we expect it? Probably not. But should you have made an effort to come and let us know where you're at, what you're doing, where it's going? I believe rightfully so, you should have. You should have had to have your arm twisted, and that's what we've done here. Boy, we got some attention. So there's nothing wrong with reaching out. There's nothing wrong with having the discussion. There's nothing wrong with being transparent. When I looked, and bear with me, my chairman will tell me to shut up pretty quick. When I looked this thing over and I thought, geez, will 2.6 sink the ship? Shouldn't, I wouldn't think. But then you hear some different sides to the story, which is important to address those, pick the pieces out to make you, yeah, they're right. Well, maybe. And so you go forward. I got the more chastising this morning as I was coming in. Didn't do them any good, because normally what happens is it makes you bow your neck and say the heck with you, if that's the way you feel. But I'm not going to do that, because I know how important it is to this community, whether some of you believe it or not. And quite frankly, I don't care about that belief. I care about what I believe. And I believe this community is worth saving. I believe this community should have a good healthcare system. But I don't believe I should be chastised along with the rest of this commission for talking about how bad it's going to be. We're going to lose babies because we don't have a hospital. We're going to have no EMS. We're not going to have a 911. Goes on and on. You cannot believe some of the stuff, I'll use that term, that has come across this email string. It's incredible. I have no idea where people's thoughts are. Someplace other than in Sublette County, I'll guarantee you that. Because this is a community, I know from my years of experience here, that it is a caring community, and it cares about what happens here. We may have different ways for us to get there, but ultimately, we're going to hopefully make the right decision for the benefit of all, or mostly of all. I could go back in time, but and bring this thing forward, how it got to where we are today, because I've done more research than I've done since I was in high school to try to put myself in a position to counter or support whichever the decision was here. I can go back in time when the first attempt to put $20 million out there was voted down. Dr. Burnett was one that voted it down. Absolutely, it's right here in the paper. You want me to read it? I absolutely can. That's why I brought it. Yeah, well, I'm not going to get into an argument with you. It's right here in the paper. You can go back and read it, all those of you who would care to. Ultimately, the decision was made to go forward with it. And it was a unanimous decision to go forward with it. And it's been going forward ever since. There have been some bumps out there. And probably going to still be some bumps. So I'm going to close with this. I didn't like being called what I've been called, but I'm going to take that as people don't know. That's the way I'm going to say it. But I did some preliminary numbers work too. And just so you know, the county has invested in this project through dollars and infrastructure to the tune of almost $65.5 million. Now, if that's not commitment from the county, I don't know what it is. And we have finally got to a point where somebody has come to here to answer some questions. You know, I know right now, opening date is July 1. We've seen it all advertised. Good for you guys to meet that goal. And I hope that when you get those doors open, July 1, you've been able to, as we've heard Lindsay say, put the people in place to go forward with it. Am I apprehensive? Yes, I am apprehensive. Do I wish you well? Absolutely, I do. But every rough road has those bumps you have to contend with. It's just the way it is in life. So I'm through. I've said my spiel. I've got my notes here if anybody would care, but I've found nobody cares about the facts. Let's just jump on the bandwagon and away we go. So somebody else, Mr. Chairman, can take over from me. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And thank you for taking on this endeavor, because I know it's been tough. I know it hasn't been easy. I know there's been naysayers, but I can assure you I'm not one of them. But I can also assure you, no, I did not vote for it. That was my prerogative as an individual. But am I supportive of it? Yes, I am. But there's also going to be some assurances that our public health facility is in place. I don't think that's too much to ask, because that's what the contract dictates. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Vickery. Anyone else?
I'll say a little something. So I'll just kind of say something for the, usually they can hear me. I'm going to stand up a little bit for the health over there. I don't really believe the first quarter of 26 is acceptable, and I can't believe that you all would think that. A lot of people here have used the public health. It's used an awful lot more than you think. I mean, constantly people coming in there they want to get something done quick instead of going to the hospital. But if you don't know what she's tolerated over there in that facility, it's half the size of what's been requested. The doors don't work properly. The windows don't work properly. This spring, the raw sewage was coming up in the bathrooms when the water table come up. So that's not acceptable. And all I'm here for is to try to work out and get what is available from the health district for a public health building, because she can't continue like that, okay? And it's short of rooms. And they do an awful lot for this county, and I think some of you had some relationship, but if, you know, it's something we can't afford to let go either. So that's my here, is just to work a solution between us. But I can tell you that first quarter of 26 is not acceptable to me, especially what conditions she's living in. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. Commissioner White or Commissioner?
I may see it a little different than everybody sitting up here. I don't know, but the pictures you've shown in your presentation are exciting. I think this county's got something exciting to look forward to, barring a few more hurdles. I've talked to the public health nurse. I'm not sure she knows what she needs. She knows what's in this contract, and I think she wants that. I think it's a public contract that's not attainable at the moment for you guys, but I think there's something we can work forward through today, and you can leave here with your funds to finish your project.
Commissioner Bradley?
Well, it's pretty simple. Comes down to, we made an agreement. It's been portrayed back to us through representatives that represent us that you guys might want to change that agreement. I think it comes down to, how are you going to fulfill your end of the agreement? Continuing to live in an oppressed tax market like we are, and what those plans are to fulfill that. And I think we can all move forward. I think at the end of the day, it just takes people sitting down, having open and honest conversations about where they're at, what the plans are, and things do change. And both parties have to be willing to change and listen to it. So excited to see the rest of your presentation on what your guys' plans are for fulfilling your end of the agreement.
Thank you, Commissioner White. Thank you, all commissioners. I have tried to approach this with a very listening ear, and Mr. Vickery, I hear you. We could have done a better job with updates. I will tell you that the business of building a hospital is nothing short of life-sucking. It is a lot of work, and we are all hands on deck. And so, barring the lack of an invitation, sometimes we just don't think to, oh, hey, I need to call and get on the commissioner's agenda. We've tried to do a really good job of keeping you all up to date on what we're doing. That's why we wanted to bring you on a tour in January, and I know Mr. Brigner attended in both January and February meetings. We tried to have someone there, but we are really, and I know it sounds like an excuse, but it's not. It's just the fact of the matter. We are all heavily laden with work at the moment. So I apologize for not meeting the expectations of the commissioners with regards to updates. I will, however, speak to some of the other concerns. When we left the meeting with the county attorney and public health, I believe our intent was sorely misrepresented to the county commission. When we left that meeting, the plan that day was that we would be asked to attend the June 3rd meeting, which is today, and to please come with plans, which we would have had 2 weeks to prepare. And that was our intent. We said, we need to circle back to this. We understand it's an agreement. We have full intent to be able to live up to the terms of the agreement. Give us 2 weeks and we'll come to you with a plan. That was what we heard from your county attorney. That's what we left that meeting with the intent for. So when this all happened a few days later, I apologize for the emails you've received, Mr. Vickery, but we went on defense. We had to. That's how we had to respond. That was an obvious threat to our financial state and to construction that's 90% complete on the Hill. So I apologize for the defensive posed, but that's what we felt like we had to do in response to your decision. Moving forward, we do have some options. We continue to explore options for the public health building. I would just like to throw out there that, especially from my position, I work really closely with public health. Those ladies mean a lot to me. In my position, we collaborate a lot. And so it's very difficult to hear that we don't have intent to uphold our part of the agreement. We just simply said we don't have the financial capability to do so at the moment, but give us some time. Give us some time to explore that. We will come through. We know what the agreement says. So we've put some things together. Again, I just want to point out that we've always been a good partner with public health. We have in the interim provided them with a very comfortable and inviting space. I don't know if any of you have visited the space. It's quite comfortable. It does not meet the spatial requirements of the agreement. We knew that going into it. It was our full intent to be able to, at some point, provide the extra space that they required. Mr. Stevens, in regard to your comments, I have here a whole packet of work orders that have been completed for public health in all of those issues with windows, doors, raw sewage. Every one of our work orders right here in my hand has been documented to have been recorded and resolved within 24 hours, except for 2 that needed parts ordered. So I think some of the things that you're hearing aren't entirely true. We've done our best to maintain that building. We've paid all of the utilities since inception, which was actually in the agreement for us to turn over to the commissioners. We've taken care of that. So we feel like we've stepped up and we've tried to do the best with what we could do during construction and all of the transition in our organization. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to approach the commission, however. I just want to give a quick snapshot of the monies that we have spent. And I know this is small beans for some people, and especially in regards to construction, but this is a current list of all of the monies that have been put into the temporary housing for public health at the moment. This includes veteran services rent, the remodel, the move, everything that we have invested into that temporary building. You can see it's just under $250,000. So we don't feel like we've rested on our laurels. We've tried to take care of public health. We've come up with a list of 4 potential options for public health moving forward. And I would like to just walk through each of those. I have been approached in the last 24 hours with some other possibilities as well. So I don't know that we come up with an absolute plan today. I will leave that to the commission, but I would like to ask that you listen to the 4 options that we've come up with, and maybe we can sit down at a time later this week or next week and kind of hash through what some of these options might look like. So the first is to utilize the current facility and accommodate spatial requirements by supplementing with space at the current Sublette Center building after the new facility opens and residents are relocated. This is kind of what our first intent was over the last few years. We figured that we could somehow meet those spatial requirements and accommodate public health in the absence of funds to do a renovation. The second would be to utilize a separate and complete space within the existing Sublette Center to create a permanent home that would meet spatial requirements. Number 3 is to utilize a space within the current Pinedale Clinic. I want you to understand this was explored during earlier meetings before this transfer agreement was signed, but that space was deemed undesirable by public health at that time. And so while I know it's in the agreement, there's also the other clause in that agreement that allows us to find a different space, because we knew that public health did not want to be on campus with the hospital. That was made very, very clear to us in earlier meetings. We can certainly re-examine that possibility. We will have the space. It would be some hardship to us as we have planned for administrative offices and other services to be offered in that space now, but we would certainly be happy to re-examine that option. The fourth option is to utilize a separate facility currently serving as a private business rental. This is something that the hospital district is in ownership of. It currently houses a private business, but the building itself could be utilized possibly as a permanent location for public health. It does meet the spatial requirements and would require minimum renovation, we think. So I guess I'm asking you at this time to take these options, chew on them for a moment, if you will, and let us know how you'd like to proceed, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm hearing from conversations that have taken place today that it is not your intent to withhold the payout permanently. Am I correct in that assumption?
Right. It's not an assumption, it was a statement.
Okay. I just feel like we need to have that assurance moving forward.
And that's a two-way street.
Right now.
If I may, please. Thank you. You stated work orders from XYZ company. I have a list prepared by the public health nurse of things that have not been completed, that they bring up information. You send someone over, they look at it, say, yeah, okay, we'll take care of it, and they never come back. So there's obviously a miscommunication that's occurring, quite possibly between all parties. I'm not going to cast dispersions on anyone other than your statement made is disputed.
Fair enough.
Then when we get into it, we keep going back to a meeting that was 2 weeks ago, and I'm kind of confused. And yes, I'm willing to work towards putting this behind, but it's just for clarification and for the record. I happen to go and pull your financial statements from the end of April, balance sheet, April of 2025. And we're talking about $2.6 million, but the cash assets at that point in time $25 million.
Yeah, it's restricted cash that's held in the construction account to complete the construction of the hospital.
I'm
That's
sure
not
it's part of
available.
that $2.6 million were part of construction.
But in the sources and uses, the 2.6 is a source that is provided by the county. So
Okay, so
our cash available that's listed on our balance sheet includes what's sitting at Zion's Bank from the sale of the bonds to complete the construction of the building. We haven't expended all of the funds yet.
correct. 2.6 is what percentage of what can be utilized?
Of our available cash, it's over 100% of what I can cut a check for today, that I could go to the board and say, could you cut a check for $2.6 million?
And of course, your balance sheet doesn't say that. I just need to point that out.
Yeah. Well, the accounts are defined on our balance sheet. So
Okay.
I'm happy to walk through our balance sheet with you.
I understand they should say reserved or restricted when it's published like this then for clarification. So yes, I believe the proposal that you made would be something that the board would consider. And if you would allow us, we'd like to take a couple minutes and go into executive session and see what we can. Go ahead, Commissioner Bradley,
Ask a question.
please.
Take over the building you have leased out, and there's some renovation costs to get it up to healthcare standards. That'd be something you guys would be able to entertain down the road, splitting those costs, paying for those costs.
I think we would be happy to entertain that idea and feel responsible to some extent to entertain that idea down the road. We're just stating that currently our financial status does not allow for that. We just don't have
We
the
could own that
capital.
building, put public health under a county roof.
That's certainly a possibility that we'd be willing to explore with the commission.
Executive session, okay? Okay, accept a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Commissioner Vickery, please.
Well, just before you do that, I want to clarify something. I said I'd be quiet, but I just can't. So, sometime back, it had been a while, Commissioner Stevens and I had an opportunity to go up on the hill and see what was going on. A lot of moving parts. Prior to the time he and I went up there, we had went on a tour with one of the construction foreman bosses. And over time, made I don't know whether you could call it a friendship relationship. Anyway, we got to where we could kind of discuss stuff not associated with that. I gave him a recipe for banana bread, and he really liked that. Anyway, so we go up there one day, and we got out of the car, out of the pickup actually, and before we could even completely get out, he said, "We have been instructed not to talk to you at all. Goodbye. Because if we do, we could lose our job." So 2 weeks later, guess where that gentleman's at? He's gone. He lost his job because apparently he had talked to a couple of the major players previous, Commissioner Stevens and I. Now, I don't know who gave that order. Doesn't matter. It happened. It happened. Now, those are the kind of things that you folks don't know about. That shouldn't be occurring. Absolutely shouldn't be. When some of the commissioners, and I don't know, I'm not pointing fingers because I don't know who to point at, so I won't point. But somebody did. It had to either come from Layton, USDA, or the hospital district. One of those three. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And I just can't imagine why, when I've just said that we've got $65 million, we, the county, you folks, not us personally, we represent you. Well, we probably don't represent all of you, but we represent a lot of you. 65 million, we're just curious. I can't talk to you. I mean, he bailed right over there and let us know that right out before we could ask a question. What's going on? How's it doing? That's all we were wondering. Where's the project at? What do you think? What are the pitfalls? There's always pitfalls in any kind of project like that. So those are the things that make you step back a minute and say, why should that be happening? You know, we're not the devil's advocate. Somebody is. It's certainly not us. Where do those orders like that come from? Why does a guy lose his job over the fact that a couple of the major players' representatives, i.e. Commissioner Dave Stevens and Doug Vickery, had an opportunity to go visit and see what it was all about? Shouldn't occur. I'm sorry, it just shouldn't. That takes away a lot of the trustiness, if you would. That's not a good choice of words, but it's one I used between myself as a commissioner and whoever did something like that. It just shouldn't occur.
Mr. Vickery, could I respond?
You may respond, yes.
I think that story is irrelevant to the conversation at hand today. However, I understand where you're going with it. I'd just like to make it clear that we don't employ latent hands. Early in construction, it became evident to us that people were just dropping in repeatedly and often and keeping latent employees from being able to adequately perform their duties. And so we asked that the commission hold to the clause in the transfer agreement, which states that the commissioners can drop in anytime and with 24 hours notice and a hospital district representative. So we simply asked that was nothing to do with us. We just simply asked that be held to so that the latent people could have some warning that they would have visitors dropping in and it wouldn't keep them from performing their duties.
Oh, fair enough. I appreciate that response, but the fact remains, I didn't even know about the transfer agreement until this issue came up. So it should have been put out there ahead of time, said, hey guys, unless you have somebody to coordinate, I use that word, and you get permission to go up there, don't do so. Been easy enough to follow, but it was a convenient time. You're in town. I wonder how it's going. So you just pop up there. And it's not as though the commission is just anybody popping in. Okay, we're major players in this thing. At least I think we are. Numbers say we are.
Agreed.
This audience here today says we are. So it's in my mind, it's just, let's trust one another. Let's start quit hiding facts that are pertinent to this project. If you want, well, I can't speak for these guys because they've all got differences of opinions, but if you want my cooperation one way or the other, I'd kind of like to know what's going on. Like I say, this presentation that we saw here today, we should have seen that 3 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 5 months ago, some time ago. We haven't seen anything. All we see is a pay app shows up the morning of our meetings. Would have been nice to have somebody from the hospital district or whoever say, here's a pay app and here's where we're at in the project. Every once in a while. I don't think that's too much to ask myself. I can't talk for these guys and won't, but that's where I come from. If I'm going to support a project, I kind of like to know where it's going.
Understood.
So anyway,
We'll try to do better.
Thank you for putting up with me again, Mr. Chairman.
Just to note that the road goes both ways also. We'd love to welcome you to our meetings. We are having weekly meetings at this point, board meetings. So our door's always open. We try to be very, very transparent about all of our business and would welcome commissioners at any point. So.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Vickery, thank you. We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into executive session per Wyoming statute 16-4-405A Roman 9, legal advice from our counsel.
We have a motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Bradley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
County Commissioners meeting will reconvene at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much for your patience waiting for us. We have come to an agreement to meet with the hospital board at their next meeting next week at 5 o'clock, and you're invited to attend. Of course, we will negotiate out an exchange of assets of some nature for the check of $2.6 million in change, and have every intention of having that occur at that time.
Wednesday at 5.
When is your next meeting, Tonia? Wednesday at 5 p.m. in Marbleton. Yes, please.
Good.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. I can understand how communication is difficult. Please do.
We are entitled to 180 days post opening of the hospital to have this hammered out. And so I would just like to say publicly, there has been no breach on the part of the hospital district, just so everybody in the room is clear with that. There has been the term anticipated breach thrown around, and I don't believe any such thing exists. I'm not an attorney, but I think you either breach a contract or you don't breach a contract. So I think it's unfair to throw that term around. Secondly, I appreciate and will welcome the commissioners at our meeting next Wednesday. I do want to offer that the delays in time continue to pile up for us. So I hope that and anticipate that we can come to some sort of resolution next Wednesday. However, some of these circumstances have created delays that will cause us to have a delayed opening for the hospital as well. And I just want to offer that publicly again, that the opening of the hospital will now occur August 4th, and any further delays could create costly concerns for us. So I just want that to be very clear to everyone in the room. Okay.
Yeah.
And are there any questions for me or for the hospital district that we haven't answered today?
Questions?
So I'm going to reiterate. I don't know which time. I want to see the hospital work. I'm going to say one more time. It depends on how you look at a contract, whether somebody is breached, I guess that's a term. So we've been discussing the long-term care facility. It's been the major concern here. So one of the other ingredients, if you would, of the contract was, and I'm going to read it. Those of you who haven't seen this can follow along or not. But it says, parties agree that any and all change orders for the long-term care facility, including shared service areas, must be approved by county prior to being authorized. I'm not one that's going to sit here and look at them, but I have to believe a facility, the magnitude of that up there, had to have at least one change order. My guess is it's a stack like this, but that's my guess. I've been on here since the inception of this program. I have not seen one. Now, I'm not faulting you for that, but I am faulting you for saying that you've lived up to all your expectations on this, because you haven't. It says right there. And I know I haven't seen one. Now, that doesn't mean they haven't been there. I've missed one meeting when I was down with COVID. One. There were no change orders since come across here. I'm not faulting anybody for that. I'm just wanting to lay it out there so you know. When you have a contract, it includes all the parts of it. Not, you don't piecemeal it here and piecemeal it there and say, oh, well, we don't need to worry about that. We'll just go ahead and get by. Yes, I hope it goes. Believe me. But we're going to do the darndest that we can to make the thing work. But right now, here again, I am reiterating, contracts are between two entities to make sure that the thing is done the way you had agreed upon it. That's one of those pieces of the puzzle that had not been, in my time, in the 6.5 years I've been here, I've not seen one of them. Would I have made, no, I'd looked at them and said, fine, if that's what they are, that's what they are. Because change orders are just a fact of life. I know that. But still, it would have shown a little more clarity from the hospital district to have shown up once in a while and say, hey, guys, we have these change orders, and this is what it looks like. This is what's going to be. This is what it's going to cost. That shouldn't be too much to ask. I wouldn't have thought. We wouldn't be going through this if that kind of stuff had happened. It didn't. We're about to, I think, shake hands and go about the ways that we're supposed to. I'm going to be around for another little while, I hope. Transparency to me and trust is two ingredients that just need to be occurring. And so far, there's been very little transparency, and the trust factor, it's been a little iffy because of the non-transparency, no transparency. So from my perspective, as we go forward, I would like every once in a while somebody come in and say, hey, here's where we're at. I don't like this. I don't want to put a bunch of folks, well-minded individuals, do something like this. And so I'm just hoping that when we walk out of here today, all of you who are in favor of the hospital or who have supported it diligently will say, wow, I think we come out of that okay. I just hope that when I get home tonight, I don't look at my phone and say, oh boy, here we go again. Because that's not fun either, whether you believe it or not. When you get those, I've got some choice words to call the individuals who badmouth you because they haven't read or aren't familiar with the terms of some agreements. I don't mind somebody calling me out. That's not a big deal. But please know what the facts are before you do. I think that's just being considerate. I do it. Sometimes I get all fouled up. But that's all I'm going to request. And you will get your money at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vickery. And duly noted, you are correct. We have had one specific change order that applies to the long-term care center, and it was at no cost. So we have not brought those change orders forward. That is on us. I would also like to point out, though, that per the transfer agreement, the county commission is only able to withhold reimbursement for questionable invoices or regarding accuracy of invoices. So I need the public to be aware of those terms in that agreement as well.
If I may interject at this point in time, please. The money that you're talking about is not encompassed by the contract that you referred to.
Center to the long-term care facility, and I think that's something the public needs to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you.
You had to name my name, Doug, so I get a chance to get my 60 seconds of fame here. I'm here more as a disappointed, I guess. And I didn't send you a nasty email. I sent you a concerned email, I think. I hope you read it that way. But to hear we're going to move the hospital back another 30 days, that has a lot of other implications as well. We have people that are already hired, ready to go. We got to keep paying them if we delay it another 30 days. So those issues just cause more and more dollar problems. But as a public member, I'm disappointed because I think this board and the board that has been talking up here, the hospital board, we as constituents assume that you guys will, and ladies, will perform your duties. We all voted, we all got excited, we got the hospital moving forward. We rely on you guys to maintain that communication. And I think there's room on both sides to say we weren't getting back and forth well enough. If you were concerned that for the last 6 years you've been sitting here, Doug, and you haven't been getting any answers, I would hope somebody would pick up the phone and talk to your neighbor or talk to the other board and get some answers before. What surprised me was when we just, boom, made a motion, didn't pay, which seems to me like there might be a breach in some contract on that too. But again, you said it's not part of some agreement, so I won't get into that. I'm just so frustrated that the adults in the room can't see that. Well, you just said, oh, we're going to give them the money. I said, well, why don't we do it today rather than waiting until next Wednesday? We know that there are multiple options to meet that 6,000 square foot within 180 days. If not, I'll find a place for them to go somewhere. I've got a couple ideas, but I just, it's frustrating. And I think I speak for a lot of the people out here. We're not trying to pick on any one individual. We're really frustrated with the whole program. What the heck? Can't you guys sit down and get this fixed? Sorry, took more than my 60 seconds.
You know, I just ditto everything Ken said. And I hope that I did send a letter, and it was not an ugly letter. It was never meant that way. I grew up in a family. I had a dad sitting where you sat. I had a dad in politics. I know what it's like to be a public servant. So I get that. But I totally understand his sentiment. When I first started coming to these meetings, my hair was black. It's gray now. You know, it's a lot of years. And I'm sad today because, you know, the only reason to look in the rearview mirror once in a while is to go, okay, in that rearview mirror, there was this agreement. Well, how many hoops had to be jumped through over all these years to get to the point that we're at? That was one of those things. I'm going to tell you what, I've seen a lot of boards. I never missed meetings. I deal with rumors every day that comes out of the different coffee shops. Oh, do you know this, that, and the other? Do you know this, that, and the other? And I've always been the type of person that I always take seriously what's told to me. And I say, you know, I don't know. Let me find out. You know, I wasn't for the hospital to begin with, but we have to do this. We have to progress. We have to, healthcare has got to be number one in this county. So I go and I find the answers for myself too. I don't want to say or do anything that isn't true. But a very wise man told me one time that people's perception is their reality. I've sat in here and I have heard all kinds of different perceptions. And Doug, you talked about facts. Well, we can even wrangle facts sometimes to make it the way we think it sounds. But the bottom line is, you know, to withhold that money from this district is wrong. These people on that board are not going to leave the public health high and dry. And, you know, there are options, good options. But to push them back more, they have had one obstacle after another, after another. And you know, the thing about it is, they're not a paid board. And what they've done is absolutely unbelievable under the scrutiny that they've been. You're a paid board. Like Ken said, reach across that. You see these things? Call Tonia Hoffman. Call Kenda Tanner. Call Ashley. Say, hey, I'm seeing this. Where is this? We are Sublette County, a small community that, I mean, we're there for one another. We're all on the same team. At least I like to think we are. My way of doing something maybe isn't your way of doing something. My dad did things I didn't understand. when he was in politics. I mean, that's just life. But let's find what we can agree on and let's come together and let's get it done. But you have to, I get angry when I think about, I'm always just this way. It's not up to people to come to me. You go to them and you find out the facts. You do your job. You want that with what you have to do. But these people, I'm telling you, nobody would want to be on this hospital district board. It's a thankless job, but this community's going to glean from it one year in the future. And hopefully we'll all be around to do that also. But please don't withhold that money. That's crazy. There's this trust level. You're talking about trust. Well, I'm going to tell you, you can trust this board. Now, you might not agree on everything, but then we have to have some sort of hope that the people that we vote in are going to work together. And Doug, I'm sorry you've been beat up. I didn't like that when my dad would get beat up. Sometimes by some of his best friends, wouldn't talk to him for years. I get it. But we're Sublette County. Come on. Don't do this. Don't put this board in that position. We have a lot more work to do up there. We have a lot more money to raise. And I'm telling you, public health is important. And I think any member in that board realizes that. But also, there is always two sides to every story. And they have done a lot more than what you know to try to make it to where they're happy. And I think that can be done, but you got to put first things first. And this thing has had so many delays. That's how come it's costing so much money. If you want to go back to day one, it's always because of delay. Delay after delay after delay. And that's all we're getting here is another delay. We got to get past this. Please, reconsider this and reconsider it today because it really is going to serve no purpose.
Any further comments?
Thank you, Luann. It was very well done. But let me reiterate, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know if you need help. We don't know if you've got too much money. We don't know if you don't have enough. And the only way we know is for you who do know to come before the board and say, hey guys, this is where we're at. Can you help us out? What would the answer be? I don't know. Maybe it would have, maybe it wouldn't have. The fact remains, how do you know something if nobody has come forward? It's not our responsibility to go out here and ask everybody, hey, what are you doing? How's it going? It's the folks who have an issue to come to this board if they want help from this board and say, hey, here's our deal. There's nobody up here that wants to see it fail. Zero. But we don't know unless you come forth and say, this is our option. This is what we need to do. And it would be okay if on an occasion, as I've said before, just somebody from the hospital district who represents them could come up and say, hey, this is where we're at. This is where we're going. This is what it looks like going to take to finish the project. Fairly simple, really.
Are you done, Doug?
I am. Thank you for asking. Yeah, for the third time.
I would like to speak to that specifically. I think that's what we're here for today, asking for your help. But just in case you feel so inclined, I'm going to throw out some information. And since we're meeting next week, maybe this is something you can mull over. I had originally anticipated coming to this board today to present an opportunity. I feel like this is an opportunity, not an ask, an opportunity. Okay. We are sitting on a shelled out surgical space, meaning it's a space. It's got a concrete floor. We have renderings of what that space should look like. And we have worked through for the last 6 months a loose plan of what it would look like and how much money it would save us to be able to complete that shelled space right now while we have a general contractor on site. That looks like about a $7 million price tag. We have explored every single opportunity that is out there. We have explored extra funding within our loan. We have explored assuming another loan in some way, shape, or form. We have explored donations. We have explored every possibility that we can possibly come up with for the money. So if you're talking about help, it would be a fantastic opportunity for this commission and very beneficial for the residents of Sublette County. Were we able to complete the surgical suites at present, keep the GC on site, and be able to offer surgical interventions for residents in a matter of 12 months versus 3 or 4 years down the road. So I'm not making that ask today. We have been obviously otherwise engaged dealing with this issue at hand and didn't feel like it was the time. But since you brought up asking for help, I'm asking for help. If that's something that you as a commission will consider, and maybe when we meet next Wednesday, you'll have some wise words, some sage wisdom for us. I don't know. I know you're in a tough budget crunch as well, but you said ask for help. So here I am. That being said, I will anticipate a meeting next Wednesday with this commission at the Marbleton Town Hall. Is that what I'm hearing? 5 p.m. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you.
So, thank you guys for coming today. I understand that some of the repercussions that could come of this decision are very widespread and could potentially be felt for years to come. Little clarification on it. We met. We liked the 4 options that was given to us. We'd like to discuss, some of the sideboards that could come with some of those 4 options, hence the next meeting next week. We are going to advertise that meeting and make that a public meeting of the commissioners, which grants us the authority to make a decision next Wednesday during that meeting. Just adding a little more clarification to how it all works, but would really like all the decision makers and everybody to consider what those sideboards are. I think at the end of the day, we can all sit down and come to a win-win situation for both parties and all parties involved. So just like to add that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Everyone, thank you so very much for coming. I appreciate your time.
I'd like to make one more concession, if you would. So during this discussion that's been out there, little did I know, and I said to myself, if they need more money, perhaps they can just go get a loan. Well, I didn't know what those ramifications meant. Shame on me. So, and Mrs. Hoffman explained it very well. She said, and I quote, January 31, 2023, said, Sublette County Hospital District cannot simply walk into a bank and request a loan because it is an elected government entity. The organizational bylaws make private loans virtually impossible to obtain without going through extensive hoops, including voter approval, a time and money consuming prospect, she said. I didn't know that. I thought perhaps you guys could go in and say, hey, we need a loan. What do we got to do to get it? Here it was explained to me. So that's why I say, let's have conversations. That's all. And then we can ask questions like this one, for instance. I didn't know that. I do now because Tonia had explained it very well. So information that somebody knows, that somebody needs to know, it's in the terms of the kids, it's cool to be involved in those kind of discussions so they know what the heck you're talking about or what you're not talking about. So anyway, there you go. I just wanted you to know that's shame on me for not knowing that because I didn't, but now I do. And I thank you for that opportunity to know this piece of information. One more. Thank you. Oh.
Not till next Wednesday.
That is correct.
Mr. Vickery, you said you don't know what you don't know till you know kind of thing a little while ago about a contract or whatever. So I'm just trying to understand if they're not in default, why are you punishing them before? Why is the punishment, you're withholding the money, a punishment when they haven't defaulted yet? They still have time to put a plan together. It's good that they talk. It's good that you talk. But it seems to me you're punishing them by withholding the money when we are not even in default yet. Well, it feels that way. It feels like there are some grudges here. It feels to the rest of us who voted for this, the 2/3 of us who voted for it, that there's something here that you wanted to hang your hat on quick so you could make it hard on this hospital. That's how it feels to me. Because you're making a punishment for something that hasn't happened yet. Oh, wait, but you're anticipating the happening of it. So let's punish them now. That's how I feel about it. I feel like I have to come to our commissioners and ask them, beg them to be honorable and have integrity. And here I am asking for that. You could do that. You could release that money today and have your talks next week. You know that they're going to do something for you. You know that. We know that. We know they already did in terms of providing a place for the public health. But what I feel like right now is that this is something somebody's holding against, I don't know, some grudge, some vindictive, I don't know what it is, but that's how it feels to me. Because you don't give people punishment until they have defaulted. And there's no default here. They have some time. That's how I feel. And when you talk about what you don't, I don't know, Doug, you've been on this board, what, 6.5 years, you just said, but you only just read the transfer agreement last week or the week before? I think you were here when it was signed. So I'm struggling to understand why there's a punishment before there needs to be one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
He has their hand online.
Pardon?
Mr. Chairman. Somebody has their hand up online.
Yes, Mike Crossan?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you. I'm on the other side of the aisle, as everybody pretty much knows on this. One of the things, and I want the hospital board members, not board members, but I guess the executives that are there, or board members if they are some of them. One of the things that makes us throw our hands up in the air is things like the comment a few seconds ago about basically insinuating that you should fund a surgical center. Who on earth is going to get operated on in Sublette County in the foreseeable future? We're not going to have surgeons here to do the surgery. If you do get surgery and you have heart problems because of the anesthetic, where's the doctor, where's the specialist down the hall going to come running down to save your life? This stuff is just nonsensical. And so we keep talking even about a hospital. I don't believe we're going to get a hospital in any normally anticipated, sense of the term. But if you go back to how this started, this was supposed to be up to $20 million to run. And the commissioners then, I think to the man, said not a nickel more than 20 million. So you've met your obligation by the up to 20 million already. You were told that it wouldn't cost over 20 million and they hoped it would come in less than that. But here we are now at, well over 20 million. You're looking at an extra 5 million from the commissioners, 2.6 of which is yet to be, I guess, handed out. But here's the issue. If I read their chart right that they put up earlier, only 85% of the senior wing is already done. So this 2.6 million, supposedly, as they said in their own words, is to pay for bills that are due. So that 2.6 is gone when you give it to them. That would leave, I guess, understanding their chart, another 3 million left just to finish the senior wing part of this. Where's that money going to come from? Nothing could have worked out better for them than it did. I mean, you're looking at, they got 10 million from the SLIB board they didn't anticipate. They got $1 million from Mr. Ricketts they didn't anticipate. The tax levy, contrary to what one of the the executives said before, that we've had terrible mill levies. We've had great mill levies for the past several years. This year isn't great, for sure, but they've had a bonanza of mill levy revenue. They've had all these things going for them, and yet they still can't make it. And what really troubles me is you go to the meetings, somebody said, come to the meetings. Well, you do, and they don't, and they go into executive session to discuss the things they don't want you to hear. So you go and you listen to basically nothing, or you stare at executive session doors. That's what you do when you go to the meetings. They talk about all this stuff somewhere other than the meetings about the financial woes they obviously have. And then all of a sudden they just show up at a county commissioner meeting broke, crying, that you're gonna ruin the county if you don't give them more money. Where on earth does it end? You need to take care of the county business at this point in time. And if this 2.6 million is it, that's fine. But I know it's not, because it sounds like even the medical wing won't be done with this 2.6 million. So it's got to stop. It's got to stop now. You need to fund the county. If they want more money, they can go ask the voters for a mill levy increase, and we'll see how that works out for them. I realize a majority of voters voted this thing in. I know a lot of them that have buyer's remorse at this point. And I know not many of them are in the room there today, but there are a lot of them out there that wouldn't vote for it if they had it to do over again. So if they get the mill levy, great. If they're broke, that's what they need to do, and leave the county alone, because you've grown a monstrous government yourself, which I have issues, with that, as you all know. But you're running at a deficit now as well. And yeah, you have reserves, but they're not going to last forever the way you spend money currently. So they've got to figure out how to sprout their wings and fly on their own. I mean, it just is mind-boggling to me, like I said, when they've had everything, nothing could have gone better for them. And yet here we sit, time after time after time, they come begging with their hand out, saying you're going to break them. And then again, they say nonsensical things like, we need a surgery wing. That doesn't make sense to me. So I ask you to be very cautious, as far as doling out this remaining 2.6 million, to make sure that your interests are protected. Our interests, not yours, our interests are protected, so that this 2.6 isn't just money, thrown to the wind, because I feel like it is. I don't think we're anywhere near the end of the additional revenue they're going to need to try to make this thing float. And I won't call it a hospital, because I don't believe it's ever I won't say never, but I believe we're a long, long way from having the population base and the funding necessary to pay for the kind of specialists we'll need to have an actual hospital. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crossan. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Dr. Erin Hasty. It's my pleasure to be with you all today, and I really appreciate you making space for the conversation. I am deeply invested in seeing the success of the hospital district, and I've also had the privilege of doing some contract work with public health. I love the space that they're in right now. It's one of my favorite conference rooms in the county. And one of the things that I really admire about Jana Lee that she says often is that public health brings us together. This decision and the way that this is kind of coming through, where it feels like we're pitting different public agencies who all want the best things for this county against each other, doesn't feel like something that brings us together. So I would really appreciate it if Jana Lee could come to the meeting next Wednesday and share a little bit more insight on what her needs for space are, so that we can ensure that public health and the hospital district are aligned and working for the health of everybody in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, is there anyone else? Okay, with that being said, we'll continue with the printed agenda, go on to the monthly report. Again, hope so. Yeah. Sam, is that the monthly report?
So this is catering permits. You ready for them?
Ready.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve 3 catering permits, one for the Blake Pape wedding, one for the Hayward wedding, and one for a house sale, all with the applicant Natisha Rowan, Boulder Bar. Is that a horse sale? Sorry. Couldn't read the writing. Horse sale. I don't know if that looks like an R.
I'll stand
second
for you
that
and say it
motion.
looks like a house.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We did miss payroll in the amount of, for approval, $1,205,246.11 in favor.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve payroll in the amount of $1,205,246.11.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Assessor Laila Illoway, please. Thank you. Treasurer Emily Paravicini. Any old business?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring up some old business. The PAC board that I currently represent the county on is a joint powers board. Found out some news late last week that the town has decided to pull out of that joint powers board. That entity met with their legal counsel. Their legal counsel says that how that works when the town pulls out is we gain a second seat on that board. Should we choose to pull out of that board, which I do not recommend that we do, that whole entity gets rolled up and pushed over and becomes part of the school district. I think for the county, the PAC has been a very valuable and resource for the county. It doesn't currently cost us anything except what the PAC has asked from the recreation district to buy some stuff for our part of it. With the board's permission, I would like to move forward with that we fulfill that second seat on that board for now and see how it goes for a while.
And do you have anyone in mind to fill that seat?
So we'd have to advertise both of them. I would be willing to myself stay on that board. It's a pretty informative board, and one of the boards that we sit on that it is pretty easy. So I wouldn't mind volunteering myself to stay on that board. I know we got to go through the application process the way we approve our normal board seats. We would just have to add a second. We'd have two positions now that we would need to fill for that PAC board, if that makes sense.
Are you looking for a commissioner or a?
I think at this point, we don't need to make a decision. I know they would like a commissioner on it. But saying that, I would, if there's some applicants out there and some people that want to participate in that board, I wouldn't mind, I could go either way with that. I could stay out of it, or, you know, if there is no applicants, I'd be happy to offer myself back as a.
How many times a month?
Once a month. They meet on the third Tuesday of every month. No, sorry. We meet the first Tuesday, they meet the second Tuesday of every month.
Are there any board members that are interested?
So I think at this point, we see what we get for applicants back. Like I said, if there's some members of the public that really want to be and participate on that board,
great.
I don't mind stepping off of it. If we don't get a lot of applicants, I don't mind staying on it either way. Just wanted to bring that up. It was late last week that we learned that news, so I didn't have time to get it onto the agenda. But feel that's appropriate to bring up in old business, being as I'm representing you guys on that Joint Powers Board.
Appreciate you doing that, Commissioner White. Thank you for being on that board. And if needed, I could certainly consider stepping in.
Perfect.
Okay, so please, whoever needs to advertise.
Yeah, so Janess so you can add a second position to that advertisement for that PAC board, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman.
So
that is good. Thank you.
So Mr. Chairman, Mr. White, let me see if I understand this properly. You're going to advertise for a community member somewhere to fill one of the positions.
Well, we'll advertise for community.
Right, but you've obligated or will obligate yourself.
Yes.
And so if in the event we don't get any applications, I would throw my name in the hat if two commissioners on that is not an issue.
Two commissioners on there is not an issue.
Okay. Well, let's wait and see where the advertisement goes. And then once again, like I say, I would obligate, it's once a month, you said. Yeah.
Once a month.
Okay. I would be the backup. How's that sound?
I like it.
Great. Any public comment from here or online? No public comment. Thank you, everyone online, for joining. It's appreciated. And I think we've conducted everything that we've needed in this meeting, and we'll move on to our budget session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we end our meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to end the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Thank you so much. Carrie? You need to sign by me?